The return of spring means a comeback of sorts for a key ecological habitat in Iowa, the tall grass prairie. With its eclectic mix of colors and shapes, the flowers of our prairies provide a much-needed splash of color.
One botanist uses his research acumen with photography to give new life to an iconic outdoor book and bring the world of wildflowers directly to Iowans. For prairies and woodlands of Iowa, spring is a time of rebirth. For Tom Rosburg, it's a time of rediscovery.
Plant people like myself are botanists, in a sense. We like to see as many plants as we can, and I don't know if people keep life lists, so to speak, but like birders, finding new birds, finding new plants is kind of the same thing. There's a lot of adventure and a lot of excitement. I'm always looking for new plant species to photograph. When you spend your life in Iowa photographing plants, it's always nice to find some new species that you haven't had a chance to photograph before. So rather than necessarily shoot individual portraits of individual plant species, another way of thinking about plant photography, one that I like to do as much as I can, is to look for areas where I can do sort of group pictures.
Still capturing nearly all of his work on film, Tom's process is methodical.
Check depth of field, set exposure. F22. Film has very small amount of leeway with exposure.
But his work goes far beyond pleasant images, including more than 3 decades as a wildlife biologist for the Bureau of Land Management in Wyoming, the Fish and Wildlife Service in Colorado, and later, the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. His experience tracks diverse ecological environments with a modern-day focus on the prairie and woodland landscapes found right here in Iowa.
Image size is fairly large and pretty much encompasses just the top part of the plant here, getting these flowers and this leaf here.
All right. An early love of photography melded perfectly with the day job of a wildlife biologist and his free time, both spent outdoors.
This one I might use a horizontal format rather than vertical to try to bring in this line of bluebells like this.
Tom's botanical insight and calm demeanor embody his favorite peaceful days on the prairie. That plant-based acumen paired with a lifetime of photographing stationary subjects prepared him for a perfectly appropriate project: Iowa's quintessential wildflower field guides.
Another plant photographed.
Originally published in the late 70s and 80s, these cherished field companions were a mainstay for hikers and explorers of the Midwestern woodland and prairie landscapes. Penned in part by legendary naturalist Sylvan Runkle, the guides were an ecological touchstone for Tom. And when the book publisher came calling for a fresh update, he jumped at the opportunity.
I think one thing that maybe University of Iowa Press was thinking about when they redid that or revised it was, of course, all new images of plants, but also maybe to have more consistency, sort of a style. Yeah, so this is really a nice representation of the herbaceous layer in an oak forest, first part of May.
His keen eye was an essential match for a guidebook destined to be the authority on plant species, growing environments, textures, size, and shape.
And trying to represent a portrait of the plant in the best way possible to illustrate the plant's beauty, its form, its structure, its identity. This is a guidebook, so you want to be able to ensure that the plant is correctly identified, of course.
Across multiple republished guidebooks, Tom's fresh work joined that of Iowa photographers Larry Stone and Carl Kurtz, as well as Bob and Linda Scarth. But joining the legacy of Sylvan Runkle's original guidebooks and visually adapting them for a new generation was a personal and professional triumph.
All the information that Sylvan put into, all the work he put into those books with respect to ethnobotany, that was sort of his forte, educating people about how native plants were used. It's really nice, yeah, to be able to help get those books back out there in print. Well, one thing that's nice about going back and looking at a book like this that I've worked on is I can remember every picture I took and where I was and what things were like that day. This one was in the Les Hills. Wild quinine, yes, this one was photographed at Neil Smith Wildlife Refuge. And now inside the tent here, everything is calm and perfect diffuse light.
Nowadays, Tom has not slowed down. He balances his role as professor of ecology and botany at Drake University with numerous field research projects in prairies, woodlands, and wetlands. He's already tackling guidebooks for Luss Hill flora and sand prairies of the Mississippi River Valley, among others. All places you may find Tom Rosburg rediscovering nature's beauty with methodical patience and a sense of peace found in Iowa's outdoors.